That was a big jump.
A little bit more.
Wow.
Okay, we'll put the whole bag in. It's got room.
772 horsepower is an absolutely stout number for this little two-rotor, and I believe it still has some left in the tank. On that last pull, though, we lost something at the back end of the engine, and it's pouring coolant out into the bell housing, which means the engine, it's going to have to come back out.
So it appears that I had a critical communication error at quite possibly the worst time. I thought this engine was studded, and it is not. Tim's been hard at work disassembling this thing, and I think that we're going to get our confirmation the second that we remove this transmission.
Okay, got the trans?
Yep. Get back and then keep it down.
Ooh, what is that?
It is clutch spline lubricant and a lot of slipping.
The smell is disgusting. But I'm not getting the answer that I thought I was going to get pretty much instantaneously here.
All right.
I mean, wow. Okay, I mean, you can go up. Yeah, you can go up. You can go up. We are off. Stop. Up. Out. Stop. Up. Stop. And out.
Coming up a little bit.
Up.
Yep, up. Okay, you are clear.
This looks really familiar.
This is called the Rotary lifestyle.
Oh yeah, look at that right there. Look at that. See that?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay. Well, that's not soaking wet.
Yeah. Well, it's all coming from that.
Yeah, it is.
That was not tight.
That's weird, though.
Well, again, the question is it not tight because it wasn't tightened, or is it not tight because it's stretched?
And when you hit it with the impact gun, it still went like to knock it loose. So like, how is it wobbling and loose, but still has torque on it?
Which means it was probably stretched.
What's the torque specs on those?
There's no threads left.
There's no
threads on it.
There's no threads
There's
left.
your answer.
It pulled it. I think it
pulled the threads
stretched
out of
it
it.
and it pulled the threads out of it.
Well, it didn't stretch. It pulled the threads out of it.
Yeah.
I would eliminate the term stretch. It stressed the entire assembly enough that it pulled the threads out.
Yeah. Well, it definitely was pulling the threads through. Yep. Look at that. That looks like aluminum to me. So what I thought happened to this is essentially the equivalent of it lifting the head if it was a piston engine. Think of this as a head bolt. It stretched enough that it allowed the boost pressure to push past a head gasket. That's not what happened though. This bolt goes through a coolant passage. So when it pulled the threads out, it just loosened up and allowed the, call it roughly 12, 13 PSI of coolant pressure in the system to push out past this. And I think all of our combustion chambers are completely fine. made it back with Mr. Vargas, the place where it all began, and it's really good news from the start because our little problem bolt there, stud in, torque down.
Look, it took it. Don't you hate when you go like, clap?
I'm glad it didn't do that.
Yeah.
You just have, what, 16 more? Is that what you said?
It's 18 total. This one stays the same, but yeah, so we got to do one by one, and the engine doesn't have to come apart, so that's good news.
If you're not a rotary person, the easiest way to think about this is a head stud upgrade. This is the bolt that came out. Basically, these are designed with some stretch in them, maybe similar to a torque to yield bolt that you'll see on an LS head bolt, where the stud that we are putting in, this thing is designed for absolutely no stretch whatsoever. Well, we didn't get away totally unscathed. This was our problem child right here, but it looked like that the bolt right next to it was starting to do the same thing. It just hadn't come as loose. This one torqued down completely fine. This one unfortunately did not, which means that we're gonna have to drill it through and do a nut on both sides of the stud to make sure it has the clamping force it needs. Mike was explaining that this is the side of the engine where all the force is because your spark plugs are on this side. So the intake comes in here and the compression all happens, and then your actual combustion happens right here, which is why there's so many bolts here, now studs, and why we were running into the issue here first versus anywhere else on the engine.
Boom.
Okay, that's it.
With everything torqued down, we just need to get the engine sealed back up and back into the CYM, and then we can do one of two things. We can either promptly take it to the drag strip and see what this thing can do, or we can head back to the dyno and try and chase down some more power.